Have you ever felt that, over the years, the voices around you have become silent, until all that remains is the sound of your own breathing and the silent presence of God? There is a moment in life when the house that was once full of laughter, hurried steps, and long conversations becomes a sanctuary of silence. The children grew up, friends, many are gone. Phone calls became rare, and loneliness, once fleeting, now seems to have taken root in the heart. For many in their senior years, this is not a theory, it is a daily reality, and the pain of feeling forgotten, left behind, or invisible, is a wound that doesn't show up on exams, but bleeds from the inside. But is being alone the same as living in solitude? Is the emptiness we feel just the absence of people? Or is it a call to something deeper? The truth is that there are moments in life when everyone leaves, physically or emotionally, and it is at that moment that we discover who never left us: God. For many, this presence seems abstract, but for those who face long nights, forgotten birthdays, and silent Sundays, God's presence can be the only hug possible. And it is at this point that a surprising journey begins. Because loneliness, although it hurts, can be transformed. It can become a sacred place of reunion with oneself, with memories that still warm the soul, and, above all, with a God who never abandons. No matter the age, fragility, or losses, there is a place of comfort where the spirit is strengthened. And that place is not outside of you, but inside. How many times have you looked up to the sky and asked, "Lord, why am I alone?" and felt only silence in response? But maybe, just maybe, this silence is not an absence, but an invitation. Invitation to a deeper conversation. For a kind of presence that doesn't scream, but whispers. That doesn't appear with fanfare, but reveals itself in small things. In the song of a bird, in the smell of breakfast, in the living memory of who you loved and who now lives in eternity. And when the pain of absence seems too great, there is one question that can change everything. What is God trying to show me in this moment of loneliness? Not as punishment, but as preparation. Like polishing the soul for something greater. Because there is a little spoken but very powerful truth. Old age can be the most intimate and profound time of communion with the divine. When everything and everyone is gone, God stays. And that changes everything. In this video, we will walk this road together. Not with easy answers, but with deep reflections. Let's talk about the real pain of loneliness, yes, but also of the living hope that can emerge even when everything seems dry. Because where there is faith, there is a new beginning, and where there is a new beginning, there is life. So take a deep breath. You've come this far for a reason, and what comes next may not only comfort you, it may transform you. If this beginning touched something inside you, if at any point you felt invisible, forgotten, or even abandoned, know that you are not alone. And your voice matters here, in truth. So, if this video is already making sense to you, if it is putting into words what you may never have been able to say, I invite you now to leave yours liked. It's a simple gesture, but it helps this content reach other people who are also suffering in silence, and who perhaps need to hear exactly that today, and more. Comment below, right from the heart. Have you ever felt this deep loneliness? Have you ever had the feeling that everyone is gone, and only God remains? When you share your story, you not only free yourself, but you also welcome those who are going through the same pain. And sometimes, a simple sentence from you can be the relief that someone else needed, not to give up. And if you feel this space can be a refuge on your most difficult days, subscribe to the channel now. Here, we speak with respect, faith, and truth about what many prefer to ignore: loneliness, purpose, aging, and faith. You don't have to go through this phase of life in silence. There's a community here waiting for you. Each new video is designed to warm the soul, strengthen the spirit, and remind you that God continues to write your story, even when it seems like everything around you is blank. Now, take a deep breath once again, because what comes next is strong. Let's talk about the pain that almost no one dares to face, the feeling of abandonment in old age, and how God transforms this pain into a place of rebirth. Let's go together. Have you ever noticed how the silence in the house seems louder when no one else calls your name? It's as if the walls echo memories, some sweet, others sharp. And in the middle of this echo comes that question that we don't always want to ask out loud. Why did everyone leave? Friends who have already left, children who have moved on with their lives, a partner who is no longer there to share breakfast. Suddenly, everything slows down, and what's left is this emptiness that no one sees, but that weighs heavily on your chest every day. Loneliness in old age doesn't come knocking on the door. It settles in little by little, between one absence and another, until we realize we're left alone, just with the memories, just with the questions, only with God. But is being alone the same as being abandoned? Does this phase of life, so full of silences, not also hide an opportunity to hear something deeper? Because behind the noise the world makes, there is a voice that never shuts up, a presence that does not disappear. And that's when everything starts to change. When we realize that silence can be the place where God speaks the loudest. But before you see that, the pain is real, and it needs to be welcomed. There is no point in saying that it will pass, or that it's just a phase, because anyone who feels its absence knows that it bites slowly. Just go to the market and buy just one. Just make lunch and leave half of it. It's looking at your cell phone and seeing that no one has sent a message today. And that hurts. It's a pain that doesn't bleed, but that eats away at the joy of living, drop by drop. And the worst thing is that, often, no one notices. Because we learn to smile, even when our hearts are small, with longing. Learn to respond it's okay even when your chest is full of unspoken desires. But, what if I told you that there is beauty in this lonely new beginning? That maturity brings a unique sensitivity to feeling the presence of God in small things, in the breath of the wind, the smell of coffee, the soft glow of the evening. Old age is not a punishment, it's a calling, a call within, closer to Him, because when everyone leaves, God remains. He doesn't forget, He's not late, He doesn't turn His face. And sometimes, it is precisely when we are alone that we are able, for the first time in a long time, to hear Him clearly. But this doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. Take delivery. Take faith. It's like learning to walk with Him, step by step, in silence. It's trusting when no one else understands. It's opening the Bible and letting every word be a hug. It's praying with tears and finding comfort without anyone saying a word. Because God speaks within. He touches where no one else reaches, and He rebuilds what time has tried to tear down. Loneliness does not have to be an end. It could be the beginning of a new season, a season where the soul flourishes, even when the body already bears the marks of time. A season where the gaze becomes deeper, and the heart more sensitive to eternity. When everyone leaves, God stays. And when we discover what that means, nothing is the same anymore. If you felt that this excerpt spoke to you, write in the comments, God stayed. 3 simple words, but they carry a powerful truth. This helps spread this message to more people who, like you, need to remember that they are not alone. And if you're here until now, it's because this conversation touched you in some way. So leave a like. This shows that this content makes sense to you, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos. Here, we walk together, one step at a time, with faith, acceptance, and hope. But why does this pain of loneliness seem so unbearable after a certain age? Maybe because, when we are younger, life goes by so fast that we don't even notice absences. There are young children to care for, work responsibilities, commitments, and distractions everywhere. But over time, everything diminishes. Children grow up and follow their own paths. Friends who were always around start to leave. Some move away, others simply move away. And there are those who leave definitively, leaving a silence that echoes within us. It is at this moment that many ask themselves, what did I do wrong to end up like this, alone? But the truth is, many times, we didn't do anything wrong. Life has a strange way of emptying the places around us until we realize that what used to fill us is no longer there. And that scares. Because when everything and everyone is gone, what is left? For many, there is a void that is difficult to explain. A silence that hurts more than 1,000 rude words. A feeling of invisibility, as if society had forgotten that older people still feel, dream, hope, need affection, and presence. And perhaps what hurts most is not being alone, but the feeling that no one else cares. And then, at that point, it's easy to believe that it's already too late. That there is nothing left to live for, nothing to hope for. That the good times have passed, and now we just have to wait for the end, day after day, with a heavy heart and a lost gaze. But is this the end God planned for you? In the scriptures, we see something very different. We see living promises, made especially for those who persevere into old age. Psalm 92, for example, says that the righteous will flourish even in old age. It's not just any detail, it's a promise. God does not abandon us as we age. On the contrary, He values us, He keeps us, He approaches. But before we can come to this truth with an open heart, we need to honestly face the pain of absence, the empty chair at the table, the cell phone that doesn't ring, silent Sundays. And you know, this is all real. There's no point trying to pretend it doesn't hurt. Because it hurts. Yes, it hurts a lot. And that's precisely why we need to talk about it in depth, without rushing, without shortcuts. Those who suffer from loneliness don't just need advice or ready-made phrases. It needs to be heard. It needs to be welcomed. You need to know that you are not alone in this feeling. And that's why this video exists. Because maybe you're listening to this right now, with tears in your eyes, thinking that no one understands you anymore. But I want to tell you, God understands. He sees, He listens, and He cares. Loneliness in old age is not a weakness. It's an open wound. But wounds can heal. And that's what we're going to keep talking about. Not with magic recipes, but with truth, with faith, and with real healing steps. Because yes, there are paths, and you have not been forgotten. If this part touched your heart, write here in the comments, God sees me. These 3 simple but powerful words are a reminder that you still matter, that your story is not over. And if this video resonates with you, like it now and subscribe to the channel to continue walking with us. We are building a community of faith, acceptance, and renewal, and you are part of it. There is a moment, usually unexpected, when silence stops being rest and becomes weight. The house, which was once full of voices, footsteps, smells of food on the stove, and laughter echoing in the corners, now seems too big, too silent. It's as if the walls hold memories that speak louder than any sound. And for many elderly people, this silence is not just the absence of noise, it is the absence of presence. That's when loneliness shows its rawest face, not when we are alone, but when we miss someone who is no longer there. Maybe you've experienced this too, looking at the side of the bed and remembering who slept there for decades. Sitting at the table and realizing there is only one dish, making coffee, and finding yourself pouring 2 cups out of habit. And then that thought comes, sharp and silent. Everyone is gone. Only God remains. But what if I told you that in that apparent void, there is a presence that has never stopped being there? The silence that weighs heavily can be the same space where God speaks loudest. Sometimes, He waits precisely for our silence to whisper to the heart, I am here, I always have been. It is in these moments that faith cannot just be a memory of the past. It needs to become a shelter in the present. When your children are far away, your friends have left, and even your neighbors don't seem to realize that you exist. God is still there, and not out of obligation, but out of love. Not because you deserve it or beg for it, but because He promised, "I will be with you always." Matthew 28:20. Many people imagine that getting old means losing strength, losing time, losing people. But what if it is also a calling, a chance to rediscover a relationship that, for a long time, was stifled by the rush of life? Maybe God is just waiting for this moment when everything becomes quieter to remind you of what really matters. Have you ever noticed how even nature goes silent before the most beautiful moments? Before sunrise, there is a deep silence. Before the flower blooms, it is on hold. Perhaps your soul is also in this sacred interval between the pain of those who left and the comfort of those who remain. God, that's why, even alone, you are never alone. There is a presence that sustains you even when no one cares, who hugs you even when no one visits, who knows your tears even when you don't let them flow. And this presence doesn't just accompany you, it transforms silence into prayer, transforming absence into intimacy, empty transformation into direction. If your house seems too quiet, start talking to God out loud. Tell us about what you feel, about who you miss, about what you would like to still experience. Speak as if you would speak to a childhood friend, because that is who He is. And when you least expect it, this dialogue turns into relief. This moment becomes a seed. And loneliness, although still real, no longer has the same power as before. Now tell me, have you ever felt this kind of heavy silence? The one that seems to scream inside your chest? If so, comment below with the word presence, that's all, to show that you still believe that someone listens to you, that you still choose to believe that you are not alone. As the years pass, memories accumulate inside us like books on a shelf. Some are light and sweet, the birth of a child, a special birthday, a family lunch with everyone around the table. Others are quieter, filled with longing, a hug that is no longer given, a voice that time has erased. And the curious thing is that, in old age, these memories gain strength. They come to light when you least expect it. In an old song that plays on the radio, in the smell of beans being cooked, swinging in a hammock in the late afternoon. For many elderly people, memories become faithful companions. On days of silence, it is in them that one seeks refuge. On long nights, they are the ones you talk to. But what to do when this company also hurts? When does the past, instead of comforting, begin to weigh you down? This is where many people remain silent. Pretend that everything is fine, that you don't miss it anymore, that you've already accepted it. But inside the chest, the memories hit hard. And it's not because the person is weak or stuck in the past. It's because what was lived with love leaves deep marks, and where there is love, there is pain when it is lacking. Maybe you are dealing with this too, with photos you can no longer see, with letters that you don't have the courage to reread, with objects that you guard as if you guard your own heart. And it's okay to feel that way. It's okay to cry when remembering. Longing is the echo of the love that remained, but it is also an invitation, a call to transform memory into gratitude. Seed memory, pain in prayer. You know, there's something powerful about handing our memories over to God, in saying, "Lord, this still hurts, but I thank you for living." It is in this act that healing begins. Not the cure of forgetting, but the cure of looking back without getting lost. To honor those who passed through our lives, without letting their absence steal the beauty of what was. God understands this longing. He also lost. He also cried. When Jesus learned of Lazarus' death, even though he knew he would resurrect him, he wept, because feeling pain due to the absence is human, and God, in Jesus, became human to show that even tears can be holy when delivered with faith. That's why, when the memory tightens your chest, you can close your eyes and give the memory to the Lord. Say, "Thank you for this moment. take care of me now, and continue. Not denying what you feel, but learning to live with it. Because memories don't have to be a burden. They can be a bridge, a link between what was and what can still be. If you have memories that hurt, but that you are also grateful for, comment below with the phrase, "My longing is also gratitude." This shows that, even though you are hurt, your heart still chooses to remember with faith, and that has enormous power. And then comes the moment when the house seems quieter than ever. The grandchildren's laughter became a memory. The visits became more spaced out, and even the telephone, the one that used to keep ringing, now remains quiet. It is at this time that loneliness stops being just a sensation and starts to have a smell, sound, and color. And often, all of this has the bitter taste of abandonment. But here's a truth that no one told you. The silence that surrounds you can be the fertile soil where God speaks to you most. It is precisely when all the noise outside stops that you can better hear His voice inside. The world may have moved away, but the sky never left you. And it is in this intimacy with God that something powerful is born, the chance to transform absence into presence, and pain into mission. How many times have you stopped to think that your life experience is, in fact, a treasure kept inside a vessel that still pulses with faith? The years that brought you wrinkles also gave you something that younger people still don't have, wisdom to see beyond the now. And it is this wisdom that can be used to bless other lives, even when you feel forgotten. You know that neighbor who almost never receives a call, or that man you always see sitting alone on the park bench. Maybe they are experiencing the same loneliness you know so well, and maybe, just maybe, God is calling you to be a hug where before there was only emptiness. Because when you reach out, you also receive. When you listen, you are also heard. When you bless, you are healed. It's not easy to take the first step, especially when your heart is tired of waiting for company. But what if you became the company you'd like to have? What if, instead of waiting for someone, you were the one who stepped forward, who took the initiative, who transformed silence into conversation and longing into presence? Loneliness, when divided, dissolves because two hearts, even wounded ones, warm more than one. And here is a precious secret that many only discover too late. God often uses those the world has forgotten to remind the world that He is still here. When no one else looks, He sees. When no one else listens, He welcomes. When no one else calls, He answers. And often, He does this through you. You may feel that you are no longer useful, that your days of helping are in the past. But God doesn't see age. He sees availability. And every morning that you wake up alive is further proof that He still has plans to use you, heal you, and transform you into a source of comfort for others who suffer in silence. If this touched your heart in any way, write here in the comments, "God, use my life." This simple sentence could be the beginning of a new journey, not just for you, but for someone who will read it and feel less alone. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, do so now. We are creating a space where every word, every story, and every prayer serves to warm hearts that, like yours, just want to be seen, heard, and loved. Maybe you've been through something that you haven't had the courage to tell anyone about yet. An abandonment that hurt more than any illness. An unspoken word you hoped to hear from a child, but never arrived. An invitation that didn't come, a forgotten date, a silence that screams every day. And it is there, right there, that many begin to believe the cruelest lie of loneliness, that no one cares. But there is a place where this lie does not enter. A sacred space where your value never diminishes, no matter how much the world ignores you. The heart of God. It is there that your tears are collected one by one. It is there that your story is read with love, from beginning to end, without rush, without judgment, without indifference. Unlike people, God doesn't move away when you need Him most. He approaches. He whispers comfort. He restores wounded dignity. And when this presence begins to take up residence within you, something changes. Not on the outside, But on the inside, you begin to realize that loneliness may even knock on the door, but it no longer finds a place to settle, because those who have God inside carry company even in empty rooms. It is at this stage of life, when so many social roles have already been fulfilled, father, mother, professional, caregiver, that the heart begins to ask, what now? What is my place in the world? Where do the days go when schedules are no longer so full? The answer may seem simple, but it is profound. Your place is at the center of God's purpose. Because as long as you breathe, you still have a mission. And this mission does not need to be grand in the eyes of the world. Sometimes she's in that good morning you give to the doorman, in that silent prayer made by someone who doesn't even know they are being remembered, in the coffee you prepare for yourself as a gesture of care, in the verse you share with someone on WhatsApp, even without knowing how necessary that message was. Loneliness, when looked at closely, can become an invitation, a divine call to return to what is essential, to rediscover a faith that perhaps was left aside in the hustle and bustle of youth, to deepen your intimacy with God, now with time, with silence, with depth. And it is in this process that you begin to realize that isolation, however painful it may be, can also be a portal, a meeting place, not with the end, but with new beginnings. Because when everything seems to have fallen out of place, God steps in to reorganize the soul. He takes away the ashes of pain and breathes life where there seemed only emptiness. How many times do we look at the past with longing and forget that God is still writing the present? How many times do we wait for someone to return when, in fact, it is God who has already arrived? He doesn't need an open door or a formal invitation. He enters the silence, enter into mourning, enter the longing, and transforms everything with love. If you feel that this moment is yours, this moment of turning the key from solitude to purpose, right here in the comments, God found me. It may seem simple, but this phrase has the power to heal, to unite hearts, and to remind others that they are not alone on this journey. And if you haven't signed up yet, do so now. Together, we are creating a virtual home where no one is forgotten, and every story matters. Have you ever noticed how the silence in a house can become deafening? It's not the kind of peaceful silence of rest and peace. It is the one that weighs, that echoes the voids left by voices that were previously part of the routine. One less dish on the table, a closed room, a memory that still pulses on the walls. When everyone is gone, the sound you hear most is that of absence. But within this silence, there also lives a possibility, the chance to hear more clearly what was previously muffled by the rush of life. How many times has God tried to speak to you, but your busy schedule, commitments, and worries prevented you from really listening? Now, in the absence of so many voices, He whispers. And whoever learns to listen to this whisper discovers that they are not alone. It is being taught. It is in this scenario of silence and longing that God reveals one of the greatest truths of spiritual life. You have never been forgotten, even when friends stopped calling, even when family distanced themselves, even when the church stopped noticing their absence. God was there, and it is, and it will continue to be, because His faithfulness does not depend on the presence of others. It depends only on the promise He made. I will be with you always. At this point in life, many think that the time for teaching has passed, that there is nothing left to offer, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Elders are not just part of history, they are the keepers of memory. And when you share your walk with God, you are sowing hope in the generations that come after. A hope that is born from pain overcome, from love cultivated even in the midst of loss, from faith that has withstood the storms of time. You may think, but who will want to hear my story? The answer is simple: more people than you imagine. There is a tiredness in the current generation that can only be cured by the wisdom of those who have lived before, an anxiety that can only be calmed with advice that comes from those who have already faced the times with courage and faith. And you, yes, you have this wisdom. Every wrinkle on your face carries a testimony. Every tear that dried is a word that someone needs to hear. You don't need to be surrounded by people to be a source of light. Sometimes, a single word from you, sent in an audio, written in a message, spoken on a park bench, can be the thread of hope in the life of someone who was already thinking about giving up. God still wants to use you, not despite your loneliness, but precisely because of it. Because He transforms your desert into a source for others. And it is when you are willing to be a channel of love, even when you are hurt, that healing also reaches you. How many times have you thought, "Am I still useful?" If this question has already crossed your heart, know that even doubt is a sign that something in you is alive and seeks meaning. And the meaning is not in the number of people around you, but in the impact you can still have on the life of just one. If this excerpt spoke to you, write in the comments, "My story has value." This can be the first step in reminding yourself and inspiring others that time does not erase the relevance of a life. On the contrary, it reveals how much each chapter matters. And if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, this is the right time to join us. Here, your presence counts. Here, no one is left behind. Have you ever realized how small memories have the power to open wounds that we thought were healed? Sometimes it's an old photograph, a perfume that hangs in the air, a song that suddenly plays on the radio, and there we are, transported to a time when the house was full, the heart was light, the table was complete. At these times, loneliness seems to mock our memory, as if saying that the best is over and that now only emptiness remains. But there is one detail that this pain insists on forgetting. The past is not the end of the story. He is the root, and living roots continue to generate life, even if they are not visible. The tree you planted with your family, with your friends, with your faith, is still standing. Maybe the wind blew away some branches, maybe some leaves fell, but the essence remains. And where there is root, hope can still flourish. It is precisely at this point in life that a silent but powerful force emerges, the ability to transform longing into legacy. Instead of just mourning those who have passed, you begin to remember with gratitude what was experienced, and to give this testimony as a gift to those who are yet to come. Younger people are hungry for real references. They need stories that don't come from books, but from lives. Stories like yours. Even if today you feel forgotten by many, there is someone who never took their eyes off you. God does not measure your importance by the number of messages you receive on your cell phone. He looks into your heart, and there, He sees fertile space. Because it is when everyone leaves, when the noise disappears, that He speaks loudest and clearer. Sometimes we think we need crowds to feel alive. But the truth is that a sincere encounter with God is enough to rekindle the soul. Not a religious, cold, ritualistic encounter, but that kind of encounter where you close your eyes, take a deep breath, and simply say, "Lord, I'm here. Listen to me." And He listens. Always listened, even when no one else did. You don't need an audience to be heard. You just need to open your heart, and that no one can take away from you. No matter how much the world changes, no matter how many people leave, no matter how many seasons pass, there is something that remains, God's gaze on your life, and it is from this perspective that restoration comes. Maybe you think you don't have the strength to start over, and it's okay to feel that way. But know that God doesn't need much to start something new. He just needs a yes, and that can come now, in a whisper, in a thought, in a simple desire to continue, even tired, even with longing, even though I'm crying inside. If this message touched your heart, write in the comments, "There is still life in me." This sentence is not just an affirmation, it is an act of faith. A reminder that if you are still breathing, it is because your story is still being written. And if it is being written, it is because God still has beautiful chapters reserved for you. There is a pain that is difficult to explain. It's when we are surrounded by people, but still feel alone. We smile on the outside, we say hello, we say everything is fine, but on the inside, the silence tightens. And the worst thing is that this invisible loneliness seems even more cruel, because no one sees it. Nobody notices, but God sees. And this is precisely where many people get lost because they don't know how to deal with this silent pain. Some isolate themselves even more. Others wear power masks. And there are those who begin to believe that they are like this because they did something wrong, that this emptiness is a punishment, that it is no longer necessary, that there is excess in the world. Lies, all of them. Loneliness, however difficult it may be, is not a sign that God has turned away. Sometimes, it is the space where He wants to reveal Himself in a deeper way. Because when everything is silent, when human voices cease, that is when the divine voice can be heard most clearly. But this doesn't happen automatically. You have to choose to open your heart to listen. And listening to God does not mean waiting for thunder or strange signs. Often, it is in a simple verse that appears on the cell phone screen. It is in a memory that warms the heart out of nowhere. It is in a tear that flows, and that, mysteriously, brings relief. It is in these moments that we feel, He is here with me. But we need to go further. God never wanted us to learn to live alone. He is Father, and parents rejoice when they see their children in communion. The Bible says that two are better than one, and that woe to him who is alone, for if he falls, there will be no one to lift him up. Ecclesiastes 4:9 menus des. In other words, God created paths so that you do not face life isolated. And maybe now you're thinking, but I don't have anyone else. And I understand you. Sometimes, in fact, life takes people away, whether through death, distance, conflicts, or abandonment. But listen to this with your heart. There are still people who need you. There are still bonds that can be created. And sometimes, these new bonds are where you least imagine them. A church group, a lonely neighbor, a distant grandson who needs to hear your story, a reading circle, an online prayer group. Don't dismiss these opportunities thinking that it's not for me. Because when you make yourself available, God directs meetings. And more than that, when you make space to give yourself, loneliness loses its strength. Because it feeds on emptiness, but weakens in the face of the mission. And you have a mission. Your life has a purpose, even if today everything seems too dark to see. And this is where a decision needs to be made. Are you going to keep believing the lies that say it's over? Or will you begin to seek, with small but firm steps, new paths of connection, of belonging, of life? If this part spoke to you, write here in the comments, I choose to live with purpose. This phrase, more than a comment, is a reminder to your soul. Because even if loneliness knocks on the door, when we have a purpose, it never fully enters. And remember, there's still more to come. There comes a time when we stop asking why and start asking what for. Why am I alone? Why did this happen to me? Why did God allow it? These questions, no matter how legitimate they are, often trap us in the past, in what once was, in what will never come back. But when we start asking what for, everything changes. Why does God still keep me here? Why this silence around me? Why this time of so much introspection, of so much absence? And it is in this change of perspective that we begin to see that even pain can carry seeds. Seeds of new beginnings, seeds of deeper faith, seeds of healing, not just for us, but for others too. Because listen to this with an open heart. Your story is still being written, even if the kids don't care anymore, even if the phone doesn't ring, even if Sundays are silent and special dates go unnoticed. You are still here, breathing, feeling, waiting. And if God still gives you today, it's because today still has value. Maybe that value lies in sending a message you never dared to. Maybe it's volunteering to listen, to welcome, to be a presence in someone's life. Maybe it's starting that prayer notebook you've always put off. Maybe visiting someone who is as alone as you are. Or, perhaps, simply allowing yourself to dream again, even if quietly. What I want to remind you now is that loneliness doesn't have to be the last word in your life. There is a presence that never fails. There is a God who has not forgotten you. And there is a new chapter that can begin the moment you say, Lord, I am still here. Speak to me. Use me. Show me the way. You are not finished. You are being transformed. If you've come this far, it's because something touched your heart. Maybe a souvenir. Maybe an old pain that still pulses. Or, who knows, a hope that still resists even after so many losses. And this is already a sign that God is speaking to you. That even in solitude, you are being seen. That even in the silence, you are being called. Now, I want to make a sincere invitation to you. Subscribe to the channel. Here, you will never walk alone. Each video is a hug, a word that ignites faith, and a reminder that grace is not over for you. If this message spoke to you in any way, leave a like, because this helps this content reach other people who are also in need of a signal today. And I want to ask you something very special. Comment below the phrase I receive. Write it down as a leap of faith, as someone who opens their heart to be healed, restored, and led by God, even in the midst of loneliness. Your comment could be the first step in a new cycle. And it could also inspire others who are reading but haven't yet had the courage to speak out. And don't leave now. If you felt something in this video, the next one will be even more important for your journey. It's already on the screen, waiting for you. Just click. There, we will talk about how to find purpose, even when everything seems to have lost its meaning. May God bless you, and see you in the next video.